Hello and welcome to Carried Away, a podcast all about Jim Carrey. I'm your host, Brian Kondrach, and I'm here with my co-host...
Carrie Grant.
Of course, a Carrie Grant.
Another Carrie.
Yeah. What we're going to do is we're watching all of Jim Carrey's movies from start to finish, from the beginning of his career to the most recent. And then from there, we'll see what happens. Today we were watching RubberFace. This was initial released in 1981. It's directed by Glen, Salzman, and Rebecca Yates, and it stars Jim Carrey, as well as a couple other people. Was it?
I didn't recognize any faces,
No.
but I'm sure they might still be doing stuff. I don't know.
So, funny thing about this story, about this movie, I didn't really want to let you know anything about it before going
you did
into
not.
it.
You did not let me know anything.
This is one of Jim Carrey's first movies that he's credited as a lead actor. It definitely was a lead actor. However, this movie was released initially with the title Introducing Janet.
Oh.
The entire
okay. I kept saying, why is this RubberFace?
Yeah, it was not released as RubberFace until 2001, 2007.
I see.
Well, it was released as DVD with the entire cover and everything being credited as him as the lead character because of his success from things like Batman, Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, any of the stuff that was before 2007.
Right.
So now we get to see his first big film.
Oh my gosh.
So what did you think?
Well, yeah, it's definitely the beginning of his career, I'd say. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an 80s movie.
Yeah.
So funny. And it's like made for TV movie.
Yeah.
Like it was just, that part alone is entertaining before he even comes on the screen.
Yeah. You're watching everything from the late 70s go right into the early 80s of Canada. It was
Canada.
I think it was Toronto. I'm not sure, but it was filmed originally for a primetime movie for the Canadian Broadcasting Company.
Prime time.
So,
Yeah, I know. Back in the day, those good ones. It's really funny.
You can see and you can feel all of the really high quality comedy and writing that we had.
Very high quality, yeah. No, I mean so it's so dated with that, but if you know that's what you're getting into, then it's kind of entertaining in itself. So it was definitely interesting, and like you're right, like in the credits, he was not one of the first ones on the screen. We kept saying, well, when is he going to come on?
He didn't actually show up until 12 minutes into the movie.
Is that what it was? It probably wasn't like that, yeah.
So we had to get to know Janet and her terrible lifestyle that she was leading.
Yeah, it was very odd.
I don't know. It was so funny. But then we finally get him, who, as Jim Carrey, did come up in stand-up comedy, and that's how he got his start. But this definitely shows how bad it can be for somebody who's starting stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that part of it's sort of interesting. I wasn't even sure it was going to get there at some point because I felt like the lead up to it was pretty long in that, and we couldn't even figure out her personality. Like seemed very depressed. You kept saying how depressed she seemed, and everything she was talking about seemed like depression. Yeah. And then she acted like this weird character at school, and she cried at school. And
there was never really clear definition of who she was as a person.
No.
But apparently her writing was fantastic because the creepy teacher.
See, it just come together at the end, I guess.
Yeah.
Those pieces were all there.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe movies spell it out for us more now.
It was a little slow getting to where anything was going on, and the comedy was definitely stretching to be. This is a story about a stand-up comic, or a girl who's going to become a stand-up comic, and it's but there's no funniness anywhere.
No, there was not a clear path for that at all until she went to the comedy.
You called it, and you called it. He's faking it.
Yeah, it was just odd.
Yeah, it's interesting to see it though, coming from someone who's been a fan of Jim Carrey since I saw Ace Ventura in theaters a long time ago when it first came out, and it blew my mind as as a person or a kid was like, I can be silly and be on TV and be a movie and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he is the influence of like, why did I want to be an entertainer? And it's so funny to see it now and watch this movie that he wasn't even credited as like a lead or anything until
after the fact,
15 years later. But you can see a lot of the beginning stages of what would turn him into who Jim Carrey is and what he is now.
Right.
Like any of his beginning impressions that he had going on where they're wearing the hats, and it's the entire scene of just like them putting on stupid hats. You can see the creation of like the Cuban Pete character from The Mask.
You're right.
You can see
I didn't even think about that. You're right.
The stages of his Clint Eastwood that he would be doing.
Saw that one. Yeah.
His weird little face he does. The thing that's on the cover that I was reading reviews about this, and I feel like I'm talking
from this
already. Yeah, I was reading reviews on Amazon about this movie, and it's like his face on the cover is nowhere in the movie. And the part where he eats the flower is where that like moment of I can't even do it. But he has that moment where it's like, oh, there it is. That's what it is.
I haven't seen the cover, so it looks like that.
I'll pull it up real fast.
Okay.
It's RubberFace.
Oh, right.
It's him with a microphone being hooked up. I don't know if you've seen that or can see that, but that's what it is. And it's just like the beginning stages.
I will say, like,
you would never know that this was a story about this woman.
Not from this cover, not from these covers. No. They've definitely. Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's a completely different
That's
movie
nothing to do with like
than what it was.
It doesn't even look like that's a current picture for that time.
No, I think that was
like
something
after the fact.
Something he had from his like 90s era.
I mean, I'll say too, like, I think just watching the movie, obviously it was about Janet and her journey to stand up, being a stand-up writer, apparently.
Figure out who she was.
Yeah, but like even like the hat scene, for instance, like you could just see like he outshines her. Yeah, like he was just so much better at like playing, I guess, than she was. Like when she was trying to be playful, it seemed forced and like not authentic to me, at least.
Yeah, and I mean that makes sense. And it seems as if she was nailing the role of being the depressed, terrible actress.
Yes.
Because that's exactly what it was in this entire film.
Yeah.
It's so funny. That was such a terrible movie.
I mean,
it got a 3 out of 10 on Amazon.
Yeah,
but as an 80% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, for Jim Carrey, I wonder if like whoever wrote this movie wrote it with all of his silliness in it, because it seems like that's his signature style.
Yeah.
But then the movie like uses so much of it. Like obviously like Ace Ventura was like around him, and so that movie was, it's written to showcase that. But this, I wonder how he fit in there, or if he was injecting that on his own. Is like, well, they wanted someone silly, but like, what kind of silly do we want? And so he just brought his own type of characters to it.
Yeah, he's improvising and just messing around with it whenever they were filming it. It seems like there was this very little bit of script for him to actually say, although some of the stand-up comedy stuff was like, not even his stand-up comedy, but like the scripted stand-up comedy, you could tell was very scripted stand-up comedy versus his kind of moments where he's being Jim Carrey and goofing off.
Playing.
Did not feel as scripted as some of the other stuff that was in that movie.
And those are the best parts.
Yeah.
Like the hat scene was great, and I bet those words coming out of his mouth were just his words coming out of his mouth. It was not scripted.
There was nothing else. Just like, put on these hats and like goof off and say things.
And like her responses to what he was saying was like just so like dull compared to like the silliness that he brought to it.
It was Janet.
Yeah, for real. And like I mean, there's so many different types of stand-up comics. There's so many different styles. So he really could have gone. Oh, my tummy's growling. I hope it's not on camera. Sorry, I'm a little hungry.
We'll cut that
lunch after this. Yeah. So yeah, I wonder. I forgot what my train of thought was though. Yeah. So like you're right. Like the stand-up stuff was so different than where he was. When he, like you said, when he was just playing and stuff like that. So
it's interesting. I don't know what these writers have done other than this. I don't know if they have ever done anything else.
Yeah.
Or if it was just like more made for TV kind of stuff. And like I don't even know if Janet has done anything else in it. And it's so funny to see this movie and just know that it was not originally supposed to be his movie. Here's a review that I was looking at. It's on IMDb. It's a 1-star review from November 6th of 2000. Huge piece of filmic fuckery.
Oh, wow.
And the cover of this movie is one of the biggest pieces of BS I've ever seen. I saw the cover and figured, oh, it's got Jim Carrey. It must be at least marginally funny. Boy, was I wrong. This is even more BS than the movie. Going overboard, in which Adam Sandler, blah, blah, blah. It's not only is Jim Carrey remotely funny, but he's not even the main character. He's in the movie for a couple of minutes, which I disagree with that one.
I do disagree with that.
He's in the movie for at least half of the film.
Yeah.
Her relationship with her mom is a little interesting, where it's like they both seem really depressed at the beginning, and you don't know what's going to happen with it.
I was just about to talk about that too, yeah.
But then you introduce him, and it's basically just the two of them from that point on in the movie.
Right.
So.
Well, what I thought was interesting too is because the movie starts with her friends and being in school.
Yeah.
And so I thought like the friends was going to be a bigger part of this whole situation, and they're almost like not even in there the rest of the time. Like they really didn't even need that.
I honestly thought that her relationship with her so-called friends was very similar to my relationship with my friends, where it's like, hey, you come up and you're like, whatever, you busting each other's chops and like teasing each other. But that's just how I was raised, to be like, if you enjoy somebody's company and you can bust their chops, then they can hang out with you, and then you guys can bust each other's chops, and it's entertaining to tease people like that. Because it does end up driving them to be a little bit different, or like not definitely different, but if it's like busting somebody's chops about a sport they might not be great at, tends to push people to try a little bit harder at that sport. Okay. Or at least it has in my experience. Okay. Where it's like this friendship, she looked like it was just like a normal teenage clique. Like
it was really like we couldn't figure out like are they friends or are they not friends? Was she putting on to entertain them, I guess that's what it was in the end, but that was not that clear to me early on.
It was completely like, oh, these are just teenagers, 10th graders.
She did say 10th at the end.
At one point.
We couldn't tell that either. And then the mom relationship was interesting too, because it was setting up things, and I think they did follow through with it in the end because of her TV personality, talk on the news, where she kind of then found out like how her daughter was really feeling, but it also didn't feel like as fleshed out as it could have. It was the movie was choppy in that respect.
A lot of chunks that were like, what is the
And the biggest chunk is with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. That's what the main bit is. They just had these other bits that kind of didn't flow as well,
I like your observation that you said earlier. It's like, why did he even sit down? Like, in the scene where she's observing the comics and then he's working as a busboy.
Right. When they first meet, they never met.
He comes and sits down, and all of a sudden they're like, aren't the best friends, but now they have this weird connection.
He's like, you come see me tomorrow, right? Yeah. But they literally didn't even say any words together, hardly.
He wasn't flirting. He wasn't like, ooh, who's this girl? It was like, oh, this girl's sitting by herself and writing down things. Like, there's nothing that says, come talk to me in that situation.
And she doesn't really talk to him either. She's like, what are you writing? Well, what stuff? Yeah, like she doesn't encourage it at all.
And they were so rude to the other comics and the host, sitting there talking the entire time. time.
Does that offend you?
Yeah, it does. It very much offends me.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here on stage trying to do stuff, and these two people are over here chatting away.
Yeah.
And then he does the same thing later on. As soon as he does his set, he goes and sits down, and he's like,
Yeah.
"What'd you think?
Yeah.
What is that?"
Yeah.
Like, no, you're being a jerk.
And on a side note too, she's very loud sometimes. Like she
Yeah.
talks normal, and then suddenly she's like, "Well, I don't know." She like screams. Like remember they were in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And she like screamed. I'm like, the show is like going on out there. Like, why are you yelling? Like it's just odd.
You can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Their whole relationship was odd though too, because like I think wanting them to flirt or
Yeah.
to know what their relationship is
Did
or
their-
based off of. I mean, in the end, obviously.
It's a
It's
did there
professional.
need to be a romantic relationship in the, or as 10th graders in this movie where they,
Well, he's not a 10th grader.
no, he seems like he like dropped out and
Maybe he's
stopped
19 or
whatever.
20. Yeah.
Yeah, what's the age difference between him and her?
Doesn't say.
If she's a 10th grader, that would put her at 16, 17.
Yeah.
So I guess if he graduated a couple years before, or dropped out a couple years before,
Yeah,
they
we
were
don't
probably
know.
very close in age. But like, would their relationship become romantic, or is it all going to be purely him performing what she writes? Which, here's the other question:
I don't know. Yeah.
is the stuff she wrote for him funnier than the stuff that
She did
she just did
On her
improvise?
own. Well, that's the thing. Like, why did he want her to do it?
Because it
He-
was written for him.
He tricked her into doing it by saying he had laryngitis. So she goes on. Then she's like, well, the material was written for you. So he's like, well, do your own material. And then in the end, she's like, okay, I would never want to do that again.
Yeah.
I'll just be your writer. I don't know. It just doesn't.
It didn't.
I thought the goal would be to like, oh, well, this is good for you. Like, you go be a stand-up comic then. But that's not where it then
No, she
led
doesn't
to
want
in
to
the-
be a stand-up comic.
So why did he make her do it then?
I don't
She was
know.
already writing for him.
Yeah, she never needed to go on stage to become a better person. I think
No.
that their relationship would have developed that in the long run, where like we're working with each other and she's getting out of her depression because she's found some sort of thing
Right.
that seemed interesting to
Right.
her, right?
Yeah.
And instead, like, this could have backfired so terribly bad.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
you go on stage. It's gonna run.
Well,
into
like
the-
her
it's-
audition.
Yeah, it's gonna run into the same.
Like
thing
he
that
did
happened
what
in
her
the
mom
other
did. Her mom made her go audition for that kids show or
Yeah.
whatever, and she bombed. He could have done the same thing to
He could've-
her.
She could have literally thrown up on stage, or like just
Yeah.
ran out of the building and be like, I'm not going on
I
stage.
know.
And
Wow.
like it could have been a terrible thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is that in a competition that is set up for 2 weeks from now, you've got the best of the
Yeah.
best working for a 15-minute spot.
Yeah.
They're gonna allow a random woman who has
Yeah.
no experience,
No.
stand-up history, has never performed on stage there before. They're gonna let her come out and take whatever slot.
I think it was a pretty low-level club. I don't think they had super high
But
standards.
it was giggles. The club.
I mean, they kind of knew her. I guess she'd been around, and they knew she was writing for him. But yeah, still, it was a little.
I wonder how many times, like, if you could delve into the universe of RubberFace, or Introducing Janet, as it was originally called, how many days did she go to the club between when they first talked and her first writing assignment to 2 weeks later? Were they there every night of the week
No.
if he was working?
Sure not.
Or were they like every other day? I mean, it's a comedy club. It's Friday,
Yeah,
Saturday,
that's
Sunday.
true.
So
I don't
basically
know.
3 days.
Well, there's some stand-ups around here, I think, that are open every day.
Open mics and
Yeah.
everything like that.
So there might have been some other ones, but yeah, I don't know. That was a little.
Yeah.
That was a little odd too.
There's so many little things in this film that are just like, what was the point of that?
Oh, with so much of
when
it.
he rode up on his bicycle, he was being silly. He's got the hat on, which I guess is leading us into the scene of the hats and
Yeah.
everything. He's kind of a weirdo. But then they focused on a car a little longer in the background than I thought should have.
I didn't even notice
And
that.
I was like, wait, is that something special about that car, or was it?
I mean, there was a lot of weird, I think, like the cinematography of it. It was weird of a
Yeah,
lot of things.
wasn't
Or
that-
just even decor and things like she
Wasn't
had
that
3 tiny little balloons taped above her bed in her why little tiny balloons.
She's a 10th grader. Those are like
so random
things you would
to
see
me.
in a 5th grader's bedroom.
I know.
No, not a 5th grader.
5-year-old. Yeah, I know. But it's like really random, like that. And then the whole scene with her even just making a big bowl of ice cream. And then she just throws it down the sink.
That was the transition.
Is that the turning point?
That was the turning point.
Oh, okay.
Because we saw the heaviest of emotional points when she's sitting on the swing by herself.
Yes, with the music playing.
I don't remember what happened before that. That was when she was talking into the radio or into the recorder.
Oh, about
being alone or like not being able to
putting
show
on the
herself.
costumes.
Yeah, putting on the costumes.
Yeah.
And then it was just that moment of Metaphorically, she never put on costumes. Just the hats.
Yeah.
But then it was them. Then it was her by herself, and that was the emotionally like heaviest part of the film.
Like I'm just
all by myself in the park.
Yeah.
That she was just out with Jim Carrey.
It was a progression. She verbalized it to the. Was it an audio or video? It's just an audio recorder.
Tape recorder.
Yeah. So she verbalized it. She sat on the swing. She thought about it. She still wanted the ice cream, but then decided, no more ice cream for me.
Dumping an entire thing of ice cream down the drain.
Big serving of ice cream. It would have been nice.
Yeah. It's funny. Thinking about the recording device is like, she's basically Instagramming in the 80s at that point. If that could have blogged or could have been on the internet, that would have been what happens on Instagram and Facebook and like whatever MySpace was all the time ago. Did you ever do that? Did you ever record yourself with a tape recorder or video camcorder and stuff?
I did, but not like hers felt like a journal sort of, like just venting. I mean, obviously, like when I and my sisters or whoever came over and I wanted to record, it would be a performance. So if we were gonna do, there's audio recordings of me acting like a news anchor and like talking like that, but not just like as a get my feelings out kind of thing. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think Jim Carrey would think of his performance / experience?
Going back and watching it, or like just what do you think he was going through at the time? It's like, I think that this definitely...
I think going back and watching is always going to be painful, but maybe at the time.
Like thinking about him as myself as an actor, and like thinking about my first couple of things that I've done, they're terrible. I know they were terrible. Like
most people think they're terrible.
Like, I don't know. Like, he probably sees where he started from and can like where he went to where he is now.
Yeah.
But I bet he thought this was like going to be a breakout role. Like I thought this was going to. He probably believed this was going to be the big thing that got him popular or got him like to become famous.
Well, and
he's showing off as much as he could show off in that one.
Yeah, I mean, he did his thing for sure, like you said. Like when he had a chance, he did Jim Carrey. Yeah. And which is all you can like sort of ask to do. Like you get a role, you don't always get to
be what you want to be. Be who
people
you
are telling you what they want to see and what they want to do, and he obviously has some chances to do what he wanted to do there. I would think. I kind of doubt they pushed that on him.
Yeah.
That feels like him to me because that's what he's done afterwards. Yeah. So seems like that would be.
I'm curious if he was doing stand-up comedy at this time already, or if he was just trying to be an actor or trying to do something else, because I know like his family relationship was strong. He had strong family ties, but they all like his mom would drive him like an hour to a comedy club and then an hour back, and like they would clean restrooms and like schools together and stuff like that. So this is him. Like, I'm curious if this was in that moment when they were all like in the worst place that they could be before he got like before like Jim Carrey, the one we know him, if they sure came around, or if that was like farther down the line on that one. Some research I want to get into, I think, on that.
Be interesting to know. But you're right. I mean, he had to have thought like, this is it, like prime time, Canadian TV. Everyone you know can watch. Yeah. I mean, people had TVs and stuff, and like everybody watched TV in the evenings in the 80s. Yeah. That's what everybody did.
This is opening the door to the balcony that lets in all the light.
Yeah. So he must have just been like, this is it, like.
Do you think the reception of this back in the 80s would have been that same kind of thing, or was it that? Do you think that people probably thought this guy was just a goofy weirdo, and like, who is this Jim Carrey fella? Or did you think that would have been like funny?
I think it probably was well received. I think, generally speaking, because like I said, in the 80s, TV movies were not all that great anyway. So I don't think by that standard it was a horrible movie. It's kind of laughable now for us, but I think at the time it probably was just like most other TV movies. Plus
the Friday night movie.
Plus probably there wasn't a whole lot of movies about like stand-up comedians, which is kind of different and fun. There's probably a lot about like, you know, teenage angst kind of thing, but like adding that stand-up comedian thing, and then the fact that he got to kind of show off his skill set, you know, in it. I think people probably were like, that guy's kind of funny. He's a little weird, but like, that's like when he did all the voices, like that's what's entertaining. Like when he is just kind of being weird, sometimes people are like, well, you're just being weird. But when, like if you do a really good John Wayne impression, everyone's going to be like, well, that's cool. Yeah. Or if you do, what were some of the other ones he did during that hat thing? He did the French guy. The French one was good. Like his impressions were really good, even by today's standard. Yeah. Like I would be like, weird, that's a good one. Yeah. So I think people probably really liked it. Or at least the people he knew. His friends. Anybody that he knows. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What would you rate it? What's your rating of 1 out of 10?
In today's standards or 80s standards?
No, our standards right now. Okay. Where do you feel that movie sat in the 1 out of 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst?
You know what? There's more potential there than that got done, I think. The storyline's not bad. It just wasn't always executed that well.
Yeah, it was a little iffy here and there. You're like, wait,
flushed out more things. Like adding a little more comedy to the comedy part of it. Oh man. Like while we were watching, I did wonder, like, so if you hadn't made me watch it or had us watch it, and it just came on like randomly TV, and I'm just like have nothing to do on like a Saturday afternoon, would I have sat through the whole thing?
No, probably not. I mean, I don't think I would have.
I don't think so.
I would have, just because it was Jim Carrey, and it's like I've never seen this. I should watch this. But if I were sick or like bored and like this came on, I would definitely like, I'll find something else.
Yeah. I mean, probably a 3 too. Yeah. I'd say it's not the worst thing ever, but it lacked a lot of.
I think I'd give it like, it's so funny that audience score and like some stuff is 7 and versus like the IMDb score is 3 because those are so drastic and different. Yeah. But it, like, again, what are we watching it for? I give it a 7 for Jim Carrey's performance. Yeah. I give it a 3 on cinematography, and I'll give it a 3 on storyline. Yeah. So like I think I'm just gonna have to split the difference and just give it a straight up 5.
I think that's probably. I could even go a little higher too, just because I recently have been watching some 80s movies that I have never seen before. Like on a plane the other day, I watched Heathers, and I've never seen it.
I haven't either.
But it's an 80s movie though, and so now like just kind of comparing some of the weird silliness that they threw into the movies that they just don't do anymore, really. I mean, they do it, but differently, like Mean Girls and kind of throw in some weird stuff. But
you can see kind of the inspiration
there
for a
was
lot
just
of the
like
stuff
some
now.
like, what? That's so odd. And that's how I felt with this movie. Like, this is just weird. Like, it doesn't work very well anymore. Yeah. But so if you kind of compare a movie that was very popular, Heathers was very popular, people still reference it, things like that. It had Christian Slater and Winona Ryder in it. I mean, it was kind of a big thing at the time. The weirdness was not that much more weird than this. I mean, not that less than this. They were fairly similar in that 80s weirdness.
So that's just the thing that was happening in that part in cinema at that point in time?
I kind of think so.
We're trying to get some new stuff, trying to branch out from just like regular 1970s like Bible stories or like gangster movies.
It's going really far,
Yeah. Or the same stories that we've heard over and over and over again.
I think
trying to push the boundaries on film and cinematography.
Totally. I think there was an era where they were trying new things and then they were all trying that same new weird thing.
The coming
And
of
so
age
they felt similar. Yeah, they feel similar in that sort of like, well, they tried this thing and it's kind of working for them. Let's try to do it a little bit like that too. It's not exactly the same, but
it's close enough.
yeah, it has. The feeling is definitely the same. I feel like watching those. Those are the two recent '80s movies I've seen. So, yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, for a TV movie.
It was all right.
It was okay.
I am glad that I have seen it now that I know a little bit more about Jim Carrey's career. And
so this is the beginning. This is the start of
his television or his movie career.
Okay.
He's got some other stuff that is very strange. But this is one of the things that he was actually listed as a lead role as opposed to a supporting actor or supporting character.
Yeah.
The next couple of movies that he's in through the 80s, they bounce around between lead and supporting, and it's not until 1994 where Ace Ventura takes off and he basically is a lead actor in everything else that he's been in.
So from 81, this was his first like TV movie, to 94 when he totally was the star of that movie.
And I'm not exactly sure when like In Living Color was around. That was
that's where he filled a lot of that time.
Was that late 80s? That would have been.
I would think so.
That would have been a big chunk of the 80s. And early 90s
maybe early 90s.
So
yeah.
That's something that we're not even going to get into in this project.
Right.
We can maybe at the end and go back and revisit it. Maybe a couple episodes, some iconic characters.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's basically just the movies. So in the next couple of movies, the next thing that is on the project is the Sex and Violence Family Hour.
Okay.
Which is a very short film with him in it, very very short amount of time in it, but it is from 1983, which is the year I was born. Yay! So he's in a couple of things in '83, all that came out at the same time. I see that face. So, but this was a super fun, interesting
totally
project, and it was a fairly fun movie to see it from a perspective of what's the word I'm looking for?
Analysis?
Looking back, analysis of a career.
Yeah.
It's a good starting point, I think. It was not the worst movie ever.
No, it was definitely not the worst movie ever. I enjoyed it. Yeah. I like that you didn't tell me anything. I didn't know what was happening. So
I plan to do the same for all of you.
I won't. I promise I won't look at anything ever. Because it's like just taking it all in.
Yeah, it's a whole new experience.
Yeah, it really is.
Cool. Well, this has been a lot of fun.
Yes.
I think that's about it for time for today. Thank you for tuning in with us. For Carried Away, I'm Brian Kondrach with
Carrie Grant.
and we'll see you next time.